Welcome back to Bowl Mania with Jackson and Austin, the first edition of the 2023-2024 Bowl Mania of college football. It's the most exciting time of the year, unpredictable, a lot of opt-outs and a lot of great games, and me and Jackson are here to predict the first batch of bowl games. And here to do it is my lovely co-host Jackson Johnson. I'm your host Austin Williams, co-host, excuse me, and we're here to break it all down. But Jackson, first off, congratulations on Alabama making the CFP. How you
Thank
feeling
you.
about that? And how you feeling about this year's bowls?
Well, I gotta tell you, I feel pretty great about this year's edition of the bowl games. I'm happy about Alabama winning the SEC, but now it's onwards to the granddaddy of them all, which we'll discuss at a different time later on, and you know, amongst other appearances. But it's gonna be a blast watching that game. But I'm excited about tonight where we're going to be discussing the December 16th to 23rd bowl games. Amongst them
Mm-hmm.
will be the Vegas Bowl and the Birmingham Bowl, and what we're going to see between California, Texas Tech, and the Independence Bowl. That's going to be
Mm-hmm.
tremendous.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of great bowls. I'm looking forward to them as well, Jackson. And let's get it started, shall we, good buddy? And let's start
Absolutely.
off with the first bowl of the season in 2 weeks. Saturday,
Man,
December 16th.
oh
Set
man,
your
the Myrtle Beach Bowl between Georgia Southern and Ohio. I mean,
mm-hmm.
we're we're looking at Georgia Southern, right? And they were one of the 12 teams in the Sun Belt to make it to a bowl game. And I got to be honest with you. Can you believe that 12 teams from the Sun Belt have made it to a bowl this season? That's the most of FBS conferences. I mean, a decade ago, they were trying to get two or three into a bowl game. Now it's 12. What do you think about that, man?
I mean, it's pretty impressive, Jackson, to know that a non-Power Five conference has outdid all of the Power Five conferences. And you would think, being the Sun Belt, it would just be another walk in the park. They'd be lucky to get three or four, like you said. But here they are. We got Georgia Southern, Ohio. It'd be very interesting. And as you could tell, good buddy, Georgia Southern is favored by four and a half, or three and a half,
Three and
excuse
a
me,
half.
3.5. So sets the table up very interesting. Now, the key opt outs in this game, that both these teams have pretty much avoided them. Miles Cross for Ohio, the talented receiver. He's in the transfer portal. I believe Jordan Southern.
Jordan Southern. I love that.
Georgia Southern. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I like old
They've got some
Jordan
opt outs
Southern.
too. Should be interesting. This is a 10 a.m. game, so make sure you set your alarms bright and early Saturday. But Jackson, give me your thoughts on this game and tell me who you think might win this, good buddy.
I gotta tell you, when I was looking at the week zero matchup earlier this year between Ohio and San Diego State, I was surprised that they lost this game in week zero, but I could tell that they were going to have a nice season all the same. I mean, they finished the regular season at 9-3. And, if they win this game, they can end it with a 10-win season. I mean, we thought that Frank Solich retiring from Ohio was going to end badly, but it hasn't so far. They've been doing tremendous with Coach Tim Albin. Dude's been tremendous so far.
hmm And for Ohio, Jackson, they've got that 10-7 win over Iowa State in their back pocket, too. So they have some big wins in their pocket and some big time experience. I'm looking forward to this game, especially for the Clay Helton factor of this. He's
Oh,
done a good
yeah.
job at Georgia Southern, but let's see, can he get him another bowl win? That'll be very interesting. This is the Myrtle Beach Bowl. This will be in Conway, South Carolina. So both teams, no home field advantage really. Both traveling a good distance. Jackson, I'll let you pick on this one first, good buddy. Who do you got and by how much?
Oh, I got Ohio winning this one right now. They're gonna win a tight one. It's gonna be a 28-24 victory.
I, I like that prediction. I have to agree with you too. I think Ohio. I think they're the better team. I think knowing that they already have the big wins and the big game experience in their back pockets, I'm going Ohio as well. I'm going to go 24-23 Ohio, squeaking it out and winning the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Now on to 115 on ESPN. You got the Jacksonville State and Louisiana Raging Cajuns in the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Jacksonville State is three-point favorites. Jackson, give me your first initial thoughts of this game and what do you think about it?
I gotta be honest. I went on the Voice of College Football earlier this year, and this was a little bit before week 0 started. I said something to effect that I thought that Jacksonville State would be the next James Madison in college football. And this season, they've proven us right. They've been tremendous in their debut season of the Conference USA. And shout out to Mama who went to school at Jacksonville State. So I know you're gonna be happy with Jacksonville State doing well, Mama. So, and Rich
Oh,
Rod's been doing tremendous over there. So I mean, if he was to get back to a Power Five school in like the next 2 years or so, I would not be surprised. Louisiana, they've been falling down a little bit from the Billy Napier era, but I will say though, again, Sunbelt's had a tremendous season in 12 of 14 teams making it to bowl games this year.
yeah, I agree with everything you just said, Jackson. It's very interesting, but it is very concerning that the makers have Jacksonville State as a 3-point favorite when this is going to be in the Caesars Dome in New Orleans where the Saints play and Louisiana. This is going to be in their backyard. I expect them to have a lot of fans there. Jackson, does that concern you when the odds maker gives basically the team that Jacksonville State, who I wouldn't say is a road team here, but they're not Louisiana. Louisiana's going to be playing in their backyard. Jacksonville State's got to travel. Does that concern you at all that the odds maker give them a 3-point favorite over the team that's basically in their backyard?
Not in this case, no. They're going to show the world that the NCAA didn't make a bad decision by letting them go to a ball game this year. That's what I think's going to happen. I think they're going to win this game 31-23.
All right, Jackson calling it now. Jacksonville State, and I've bounced back and forth on this game to be perfectly honest with you, but I think I'm going to take Jacksonville State too. I think their run game will carry the day for them, and they do have a lot to prove that they are legit. And the committee, the NCAA committee, made the right decision letting them go bowling. I got Jacksonville State winning 30-20 over the Raging Cajun. Now on to the New
Cure Bowl.
Mexico. Yes, the Mexico Cure Bowl. Miami of Ohio
Avocado.
against Appalachian State. And App State is 5.5 points favorites. Wow.
Ooh.
Talk about that, Jackson. The odds makers like Appalachian State to pull an upset here.
Oh man, they are loving the Sun Belt this year. The odds makers are loving them.
I mean, this is very interesting for a couple reasons. Miami, Ohio's 11-2, and they're coming off of a MAC championship as Appalachian State got their doors blown off by Troy, which we'll see Troy towards the end of this because they are playing the Duke Blue Devils. We'll get to that later on.
Oh
But
yeah.
both these teams are coming off big time defeats and big time wins. But App State's 8-5, Miami, Ohio's 11-2. Now, part of the reason maybe why they're favored is because Jackson, that, App State, they do tend to play spoiler. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, they almost did it to North Carolina this past year,
Oh yeah.
and they did it to James Madison. I think that may be playing a big time role
Mhm.
on that. I mean, I don't know. But
Oh,
give me your breakdown and takeaway on this game, Jackson. What's your gut feeling on this?
I got a feeling App State is reeling from that loss in the Sun Belt title game against Troy. They are not too thrilled about that loss, but Miami, Ohio, aka the OG cradle of coaches, that they are Miami, Ohio is having a celebration. They're having a little good time for a long time. They're just happy that they got that MAT title. But App State, they're gonna cut that celebration short. That's gonna be a 35-24 victory.
Yeah, see, this is another one that I've been very conflicted on. I've been looking at the transfer portals hard on a lot of these teams, but like it's hard to overlook App State and their resumes of spoiling teams' parties. But Miami, Ohio, they did lose their starting quarterback against Toledo earlier in the year. Blaine Gabbert's younger brother, he was a big piece of that offense, and now he is gone, out for the year. Hopefully, he heals up and comes back healthy. But it seems like it hasn't affected him at all. I'm gonna go Miami, Ohio here. I'm sorry, App State. No spoiler for you. You don't get to take the Cure Bowl home. I got Miami, Ohio winning
Ooh,
31-14 over App State. Now on to our, oh, go ahead, good buddy.
that's a good one right there. We got a little
On
something
to
called the New Mexico Bowl. Sweet. And it's got a New Mexico team in New Mexico State.
on to the New Mexico Bowl. You got New Mexico State and Fresno State. New Mexico State is favored by 3.5. Mr. Jerry Kill, what a job he has done with that team. Getting them to 10-4, still has a chance in 11-win season. And Fresno State, after their hot start, have kind of dropped off just a little bit. But
Mm.
Jackson, what is your takes on this game and your predictions?
Well, we know that I don't think Jeff Tedford is coaching this game. He's gonna be, due to health issues at the moment. He's kind of chilling out, relaxing. He needs all the rest he can get. We wish him nothing but awesomeness, but they got an interim coach coaching this game, and that may hurt Fresno a little bit, but we wish Tedford to recover as much as possible. As for New Mexico State, they've had a tremendous season. I mean, that win over Auburn, that's one of the high parts of this year. And the fact of the matter is, New Mexico State, if they win this game, it'll be the first time since 1960 where they have an 11-win season. I repeat, the first time since 1960 where they have an 11-win season. And that's all thanks to Jerry Kill right there. And I mean, years past, nobody's even looking at this program, New Mexico State. Now they got everybody's attention. They most certainly got our attention, that's for sure.
Yes, and I would like to add to this too. Fresno State, Jackson, what do you think it is about them? Because they started the season off so well with a big time win opening weekend against Purdue, and then they were kind of rolling, and then they got throttled by San Jose State, and then they lost to Air Force. It was kind of like, what do you think went wrong for Fresno State? Do you think their coach Tedford, their heart wasn't in it, maybe, or is this team not as good as we thought they would be? What do you think the deal is with them?
I don't think it's that really. I think the month of November really got to them. and Wyoming destroyed their unbeaten streak earlier this year. I mean, if you go to Wyoming, you're going to deal with spoiler, that's for sure. But the Mount West, I think it's just stacked all over the place. I mean, Boise State, UNLV, San Jose State, Air Force, Wyoming, and Fresno, they were all just killing each other. I mean, that top half of that conference was nuts.
Yeah, I I agree with you, Jackson. Unfortunately, that I think that was the ultimate downfall on why they didn't get the NY6 bid. Is they as at the top it was so top heavy this year. They basically did like they do in the Pac-12. They beat each other up until no one was left. But as for this game, though, which I'll go first on this one. I I think Jerry Kill. I've watched his team play. They play hard. They play for each other. I just don't trust Fresno State right now. They seem to be going on a downward spiral. Their head coach is taking a break, and that may affect them just a little bit. The quarterback play has been a little subpar for from what it was. I'm going to take New Mexico State 27-21 over the Fresno State Bulldogs. Your prediction, Jackson?
Oh, I got New Mexico State winning this one 28-20 against Fresno. But I will say though, we got the LA Bowl, Starco Brands Bowl between UCLA and Boise State. I don't get it with UCLA. They cannot read the room. I mean, there's like a lot of people saying for Martin Jarman, the AD, to read the room on Chip Kelly. They are not too thrilled about him.
Well, Jackson, Vegas seems to think UCLA is a 3-point favorite here. And it may be because, once again, Chip Kelly and his dynamic offense, because UCLA is a 3-point favorite. This is in LA. They ain't going to have to travel far. Boise's got to travel a bit. But, I want to talk to you, Jackson. I know we talked a lot about UCLA and Chip Kelly read the room and all that. But let's talk about Boise State, shall
Oh my
we?
god, they've been tremendous. I mean, I think that
Yes.
firing of Andy Avalos straightened them up real quick because, like, they win their last 2 games with interim coach Spencer Danielson. Then they win the Mount West title game and just smack around UNLV. I gotta tell you, they made the right call naming him as the Nets head coach. I mean, he changed their attitude real quick. I mean, this is a very different team from the team that I saw earlier this year, where they blew a 20-point lead with 4 minutes left in the game against Colorado State. Now you don't see that with Boise State. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to go back to the good old days with Kellen Moore and Chris Peterson. I'm just saying I'm seeing some happy days coming in Boise, Idaho with Spencer Danielson as head coach.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say this, Jackson. We do know in the transfer portal, Dante Moore has entered the portal, and he will not be playing this game. So UCLA is going to have a little bit of a quarterback issue.
Oh,
But
yeah.
knowing Chip Kelly, he always seems to find a way to get the best out of his situation. I expect them to run the ball quite a bit here, test that Boise State front, and I expect them to put the training wheels on the quarterback, kind of keep the offense, one dimensional, kind of be like a babysitter almost, Jackson. Be like, okay, we might let you throw a screen. Oh, okay, we'll let you throw a slant now. But I think in this game here, Boise State's been on a roll as of late, but I I trust Chip Kelly. I think he wants to prove people right that he is the guy that's going to lead UCLA into the future, that he has still got what it takes to get them where they want to go. I got UCLA winning 31-28 over Boise State. What's your prediction, Jackson? And your take?
Well, I will say, not so fast, my friend. I gotta go with the Smurfs all the way. I'm gonna pick Boise to win 31-24 on this one.
We almost had the same score. Almost.
Well,
Ooh,
great
this.
minds think alike. That's how it works.
Ooh, Jackson, a little primetime football. 8:15 on
Mhm.
ESPN. Cal, Texas Tech in the Independence Bowl. And Texas Tech is a 3.5 point favorite. Interesting. Well, Jackson, I'll let you take it away, good buddy, because I know you love talking about Cal, especially when they're playing Stanford. So go ahead, good
Well,
buddy.
not as much as one guy we know that said that they got a lot of hype, but that was in August. But in all seriousness, though, Cal had a tremendous last part of the season where they did just enough to get to the bowl game this year. As for Texas Tech, they were expected to do so much more than go sits and sits and make it to the Independence Bowl. But, it's just Joey McGuire, he's going to get another shot, for next couple years, of course, in his third season. But I just hope for his sake, Brett Yormark doesn't put a whole ton of pressure on him. Like, no pressure, but you got to beat Texas.
I will say this, Jackson. I saw in some playoff brackets they had Texas Tech winning the Big 12 and going to the playoffs. And I'm like, whoa, where did this come from? Hold up. I was like, did we miss something? But Jackson, apparently, this is the most talented Texas Tech team they've had in a while. And they had a lot of expectations, like you said. And I got to give Jerry Maguire credit. I mean, they did beat Kansas on the
Jerry
road
McGuire.
in Lawrence. What a great win that was. But I do have to say, though, what could have been, because like we discussed on our recap show when that happened, it was against a third string quarterback. So
Mhm.
therefore it was kind of you might have got lucky there. If Jaden Daniels or Jason Bean was healthy and playing, who knows how that turns out. But
True.
as for Cal, they lose Jack Plummer. He comes over to Louisville, and Jack Plummer, isn't the greatest quarterback, and which, trust me, I get Cal fans why you were ready to ship him out in a hurry. Like, don't get me wrong, Jeff Brom has done wonders with him, but I see why you're ready to ship him out. I mean, Cal has had a lot of close calls. They almost beat USC. See, they kept it close with a lot of good teams this year, but this will be interesting. Jackson, I'll let you make your pick first on this one, and then I'll go second.
Well, as bad as a season that Texas Tech has had this year, I'm still going to go with them in a 35-24 victory.
Interesting. I'm actually going to go Cal 34-24. I'm going to go Cal by 10. I think Cal, they've had a great year, and I think they continue to show that they're going in the right direction. But that's all for our Saturday, December 16th games. But don't worry, guys. It's not over there. We got a not single-headed, a Monday night
Single
game,
hitter.
December
Monday
18th,
afternoon. Monday
Monday night.
afternoon.
Thank you, good buddy. And it is the famous Toastery Bowl. And Old Dominion is 2.5 point favorites against Western Kentucky. Jackson, give me your thoughts and takes on this, and let me know. Let me know what's your early gut feeling on this game.
Well, I gotta say, I thought that Western Kentucky would be a little better than this, but they do have a great quarterback in Austin Reed, so it's a good idea to keep an eye on him. And we know that Old Dominion's got tackles leader in Jason Henderson. He's been tremendous all season this year, so it's going to be quite a big game either way.
Now, I've watched a lot of Western Kentucky games because where I'm at in Kentucky, it's broadcasted every week to us. Old Dominion, I've seen a little bit of them. they're not they're both you know both teams are kind of what you think they would be. Western Kentucky 7-5, Old Dominion 6-6. Both teams have their flaws and issues, but like you said, Jackson, Austin Reed is a stud. He can throw the football. He passes for a lot of yards, and that Western Kentucky offense is built off of him. But Old Dominion does play a solid defense of what I've seen, and they are ball hawks. They like to get a lot of turnovers, which could play a big factor in this game. But Jackson, I will let you pick first on this one. Once again, good buddy, who are you going with?
I'm gonna go Western Kentucky, the underdog on this one. I'm gonna say 34-27.
I'm gonna have to agree with you, Jackson. I'm going Western Kentucky as well. I'm going Western Kentucky 38-34 over Old Dominion. Now on Tuesday, we've got another game, and this is a primetime game at 8 p.m. UTSA is 8.5-point favorites over the marshalling Thundering Herd in the Coffee Frisco Bowl. But isn't that a heck of a name, Jackson? Be like, not just the Coffee Bowl, it's the Frisco's Coffee Bowl.
Coffee, coffee.
But Jackson, give me your
Mark.
first initial thoughts on this game, and just talk about two of the more underrated teams maybe in college football, and talk about for UTSA maybe how this could be a down year for them after the great season they had under Jeff Traylor last year.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, I'm looking at Marshall, and they started off 4-0, but then the moment they lost to NC State on the CW, I mean, we talk about how the CW curse hits ACC teams. I think it hits anybody that goes on the CW, and it hit Marshall big time because they go on a 4-game losing streak after they lose to NC State. Then reality hits them, and they're like, "Holy cow, we could miss a bowl game." They beat Georgia Southern, then they get shut out by South Alabama, but they clinch bowl eligibility by beating Arkansas State. As for UTSA, we know that they started out the season going 1-3, but they got on a big winning streak by winning 7 straight games. And then we see the winner of UTSA Tulane on Black Friday is going to be represented in the AAC title game. But unfortunately, Tulane beat UTSA. But that doesn't mean we won't get to see quarterback Frank Harris one more time. That's going to be a great one right there. I mean, somebody
Mm-hmm.
should get him. I'm telling you right now. I mean, for those that are just wanting to watch the 5th and 6th rounds of the NFL draft, he's going to be a draft steal for somebody whoever gets him. Especially with all these quarterbacks going down in the NFL this season, they could definitely use Frank Harris.
Yeah, Jackson. To your point, I think a lot of the reason that maybe UTSA has struggled just a little bit is Samir Franklin, who transferred to Ole Miss. He was a fast and very talented receiver. He could make a defense sweat a little bit, but now that he transferred to Ole Miss and he was a big help for them this year as well, it kind of diluted UTSA's offense just a little bit, and Frank Harris had to do a little bit more. He just couldn't rely on, oh, we'll just send Franklin deep and it'll leave someone wide open somewhere. And he kind of had to adjust to that. And it's pretty funny, Jackson. Marshall, everyone picks on Notre Dame, how you lost to Marshall and Stanford. But as you can see, Marshall's not all that bad of a team. Marshall's actually a comparable team. But for Notre Dame standards, they're bad. It would be like Alabama losing to Marshall. Alabama fans would be losing their head over that.
Oh, I know
But
I would.
but Alabama's not the topic at hand though. I think though in this game though, I think in this game it's going to come down to who can make a couple more stops. So I feel like both offenses might have a field day in this game. I'm going to trust Frank Harris and UTSA in this game and Mr. Jeff Traylor. I'm going to go UTSA 37-31 over Marshall. Jackson, who do you got in this game?
I'm going UTSA on this one. I mean, I I just can't help but feel that Frank Harris and Jeff Traylor are going to have a great, day on this one. Well, great night against Marshall. It's going to be bad night for that Thundering Herd. It's going to be a 35-20 victory for UTSA.
Interesting. And then now we are on to the Thursday, December 21st games. This is a 7 p.m. game. It will be South Florida against Syracuse in the Baton Rouge Bowl or Rouge Bowl. Syracuse is a
Boca
3.5
Raton,
point
Boca Raton Bowl.
Bowl Raton Bowl. Thank you, Jackson. It'll be Syracuse, South Florida. Syracuse is a 3.5 point favorite. Oh, look, Jackson, South Florida made a bowl. That's great for
Yeah,
Alabama.
that's right. It most certainly is. And it's the first time in a while that South Florida has been in a bowl. It's been since Charlie Strong was head coach there. And it was the last time was 2018 in the Gasparilla Bowl against Marshall. And Syracuse, they are without their head coach, Dino Babers. So they need to have a good day to give them some momentum for 2024 or just have something to look forward to,
Yeah,
especially on Christmas.
I was about ready to ask you about that. Do you think this is a big game for Syracuse in terms of this could decide what head coach, going forward, establish the culture there? I would argue this is one of the most important games for Syracuse in program history. You can make a case that this could set up their future big time. Would you agree on that, Jackson, or is that maybe too far of a fetch?
Well, I mean, their new head coach, Fran Brown, the defensive backs coach from Georgia, um, he's kind of just coaching the bowl, I'm sure, for this season, but then next year he's your new man at Syracuse. I hope he gets things going for them, but everybody seems to be excited about it. But the interim coach, I hope he has a good day against South Florida. But at the moment, I am not counting on it.
Yeah, Jackson, South Florida, they've been a very inconsistent team. I mean, I know everyone likes to point to the Alabama game, but Jackson, looking at it from your perspective, we're going to bring Bama into this just for a second. Do you
Okay.
think this game is close if Jalen Milroe is starting the whole time? Do you think South Florida stays as close as they did? Or do you think it was because Bama was flip flopping on quarterbacks and they didn't
I
know
think
who they had at the
I
time?
I think it's because we flip flopped on quarterbacks at the time. That was just the whole thing. We were just going, do we go Miller? Do we go Buechner? Who do we go with exactly?
Because I know a lot of people look at that and say, oh, look, South Florida, they're not as bad as we think. And it's one of those things, if you watch the game, it can be deceiving. Alabama really wasn't sure what they were doing at quarterback, and it was raining, bad weather. It was just an awful day if you were a Crimson Tide fan. Yes, they won, but you came out of that game thinking, what the heck was that? This is not Alabama football. But I think that is a byproduct of South Florida. People think that they were good and they could compete. And obviously, they are somewhat good. They made a bowl for the first time in a long time, like you said, Jackson. But they're not on the level just yet of some of these teams. But it should be interesting. I think in this game here, Syracuse. Do we know if Garrett Schrader's playing or not? Has he entered the portal, or is he
Not
playing
sure.
the? Not
I,
sure. Okay, because
but I
Garrett
will
Schrader.
tell you though, there's a lot of history. Well, some history involving these two schools. They were both conference opponents together in the old biggies from 2005 to 2012. and South Florida usually had the upper hand. But in 2015-16, they play each other as non-conference opponents. Guess who beat them both times? South Florida was beating Syracuse. That's not good.
I mean, if Garrett Schrader plays, I trust Syracuse a little more. But if he opts out, it could be a major issue because he is a lot of Syracuse's offense. But I'm going to trust that he's going to play this bowl. I'm going to go Syracuse 23-13 over South Florida. Who's your pick on this one, Jackson?
Oh, I got to go South Florida on this one. That's a 28-24 victory.
We split again on that one. Now, on to Friday, December 22nd in the Gasparilla Bowl. You got Georgia Tech and UCF, the two Jekyll and Hydes of their conference. South Florida is 4.5-point favorites. And I'll just start off by saying this. This is the game I struggled with picking the most because UCF, Georgia Tech UCF, they are a team that 1 week they're losing to Oklahoma on a last-second 2-point conversion, and then they stomp Oklahoma State in the ground like they owed them money. And then you got Georgia Tech who loses to Bowling Green, and then they go out and beat North Carolina. Like, Jackson, explain to me how any of that makes sense. I mean, you can see the dilemma we're in here.
Well, I mean, Central Florida, they brought their A game against Oklahoma State, but then we see them playing awful against Baylor. They're blowing a 28-point lead against them. And we see them getting smacked by West Virginia. But, they play great against Oklahoma, but they nearly lose to Cincinnati. This Central Florida team just irritates me. They really do. They just make me mad. Oh, wait, it's led by Gus Malzahn. Right.
Well, Jackson, talk about Georgia Tech in that same way, too. I mean, they have just as many Jekyll and Hyde moments as UCF does. I mean, losing to Bowling Green, and then what happens a couple weeks later? They beat North Carolina by 2 touchdowns. I mean, 46-41. It's
42.
Yes, thank you. It's ridiculous, Jackson. It's like, Georgia Tech, are you going to be a good team or are you going to be a bad team today? UCF, are you going to be a good team or are you going to be a bad team? I've struggled with this pick, but both these quarterbacks are very inconsistent as well. Haynes King and John Rice Plumlee. And John Rice Plumlee has at times been UCF's best offense, but he's also been turnover prone, and he's also been known to make mistakes. Haynes King, if you can get pressure on him and get him to the ground, Georgia Tech can be beat. But Jackson, I'll let you pick on this one first. Good buddy.
Well, I'm going to say that I believe Georgia Tech's going to win this one 24-21 against Central Florida. That's what my final score prediction is going to be. I mean, Central Florida being the favorite, I don't feel confident in them.
I'm reluctant, but I'm going to go UCF on this one. I'm going to say that they have their moment. They show up in this game. They're going to play harder. I think UCF wins the Gasparilla Bowl 28-25 over Georgia Tech. Now on to Saturday, December 23rd. Ooh, and what a way to start it out. You've got Troy and Duke in the
Birmingham Bowl.
Yes, and Troy is a 7-point favorite. Now, the reason for that could be Riley Leonard and Mike Elko have both left, and Duke offense without Riley Leonard has looked very different this year. But Jackson, give me your gut feeling on this game, and just talk a little bit about Troy and the job that they've done over there, especially for them.
Oh man, John Summerall has done a tremendous job in his second year at Troy. I mean, yeah, they lose a big one against Kansas State, which that's what you're gonna do. But then they lose a tight one to James Madison on the NFL Network. But then we see a little bit of a repeat of last year where they lost two of the first three games to start off the year. But then they go on a winning streak. They go on an 11-game winning streak to end the year. Then they go on a 9-game winning streak this year. Then go on a 10-game winning streak by winning the Sun Belt title game against Appalachian State. And now they're fighting for a shot at an 11th straight win by beating the Duke Blue Devils in the Birmingham Bowl.
Hmm.
That's going to be
Now, Jackson,
fantastic.
I will say though, Jackson, Jordan Waters for Duke, if he plays, he's an explosive running back. He can make things happen on the ground. I have very confidence if he plays, he could help the Duke offense a lot. But to your extent, though, Troy, what an incredible season that they've had. I mean, a team that, where DeMarcus Ware went, who's a Hall of Famer and Hall of Famer with the Broncos and Cowboys, Super Bowl champion, good lineage there, and hopefully Troy gets a couple more of those. But this is going to be very interesting in the Birmingham Bowl. This is going to be in Alabama, not too far from where you're at, Jackson, up the road there, and good old Bama. I think in this game, I want to pick Troy Jackson, but something tells me Jordan Waters, he's going to have a day on the ground. And I think Duke is going to show people that, hey, yes, Riley Leonard and Mike Elko leaving are big losses, but I think they're going to show that, hey, we're a legit team. We can play with anybody when we want to. I'm going to go Duke to win this game 24-20 over Troy. Your prediction, Jackson, for this game?
I'm going to go Troy on this one. I think it's going to be in tight fashion. It's going to be a 27-21 victory from Troy.
Should be a fun game either way. Ooh, now we got another morning game on our hands in
The
the
Camille the
the
Camilla Bowl
Camila Bowl.
between
Oh, go
Arkansas
ahead.
State and Northern Illinois.
And the favorite in this is Arkansas State by 1. So basically a pick 'em. This game's very interesting because we didn't have high hopes for Arkansas State. If you remember, Jackson, when we saw that they were going to play Oklahoma opening weekend, and we asked, why is this game on ESPN? Well, maybe Arkansas State is a decent team, or is that fair to say? Is that fair to say that they are, or have they just gotten the luck of their schedule?
I think it was the luck of their schedule because I mean, after they got shut out 73-0, they lost 37-3 to Memphis. That was not a good day right there.
Yeah, in Northern Illinois, I mean, they almost beat Boston College. I mean, both these teams come in 6-6. I Jackson, give me your take on this game and prediction. Let you go first on this one.
I mean, I'm looking at 2 of the 6 wins from Arkansas State that were against winning teams. They couldn't get another single win against a team with a winning record. I mean, I'm looking at Stony Brook. Oh my God, they were 0-10. Southern Miss and Louisiana Monroe were the only two teams in the Sun Belt that didn't make a bowl game. Um, UMass, I mean, they're a disaster like they usually are. So that's not a good thing. And as we know with Northern Illinois, they beat Boston College, but then they let it go to their heads for a little bit because they lose 4 straight games. One of them being against Southern Illinois. That was not good. I mean, they get beat by Nebraska, which that's gonna happen. They get beat 22-14 by Tulsa, and then they lose a tight one against Toledo. But I think starting off 1-4 was kind of a reality check for them because then they beat Akron, Ohio, and Eastern Michigan. But then they get another reality check by being 4-6 going into Western Michigan, and they shut them out. And then they win by 10 points against Kent State. So Thomas Hammock is safe for right now at Northern Illinois.
He sure is. I mean, this is a very interesting game. I'm gonna go with Arkansas State. I think they've been the more consistent, not the more consistent team. They've shown that they can compete. Northern Illinois, they do have that big win over Boston College, like you said, Jackson. But I feel like that was because Boston College is not as good. I'm going to go Arkansas State to win 21-19 over Northern Illinois. Your prediction, Jackson.
I think Northern Illinois is going to be motivated by the fact that they could have a shot at a winning season. But then again, same could be said about Arkansas State. But I gotta tell you, I'm gonna stick with my instincts and go with Northern Illinois. I almost called them Northern Iowa for a moment. I don't know why, but I did.
But on to our next game, the Armed Forces Bowl. You've got Air Force against James Madison. The
Yeah, this
NCAA
looks exciting.
lifted their ban, and James Madison's going bowling. Good buddy, how do you feel about that?
I feel great. I mean, we thought they were going to get left out, but they weren't because that NCAA ruling where it said there has to be not enough bowl eligible teams for James Madison and Jacksonville State to make it. Guess what? They did. Kurt Sidnetti's done a great job over at James Madison. And as for Air Force, they looked pretty good to start off the season, but Army kind of spoiled things for the Air Force Falcons. And the rest of November wasn't any better. They get smacked by Hawaii. They lose a tight one to UNLV. And then they lose to Boise State. And as you said, App State spoiled James Madison's unbeaten season. So that's not a good thing for James Madison. But we
Now
know
we
they
do
got their interim head coach, Damian Robluski.
now.
Wonder what
I'm
he's
glad
going to do.
you brought that up, Jackson. Kurt Cinetti, he is the new Indiana Hoosiers head coach, which excited for all the Indiana Hoosiers fans out there. You got you a good head coach, but how will the morale be with James Madison? Because are they going to be like, man, really, we were building something special over here, and he left us for a Power Five
Mhm.
program in Indiana, who's not much better, but and how is Air Force going to get things together after the season that they started out and how they're finishing? James Madison is a 3-point favorite though, so that does say the odds makers does have some faith in them. Jackson, I'll let you pick on this game first. Who do you got?
I'm going to go James Madison 31, Air Force 17.
That's a good pick. I'm gonna go with Air Force on this one. I'm gonna go Air Force 33-26. I think James Madison having an interim head coach, losing Kurt Sinetti's, I think is big time. It's going to affect him in this game a little bit, and I think Air Force wants to end the season off right. But on to our next game, we've got Georgia State against Utah State against Utah State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. That's an interesting name. And Georgia State is a 2 point favorite. Jackson,
Mhm.
give us your breakdown of this game and give us your early gut reaction.
Well, I can't help but notice that Georgia State starts off the season at 5-1, and then like their last win was against Louisiana on October 21st, but they basically lost the rest of the way. I mean, you're gonna lose to LSU, no doubt about that, and you're gonna get beat by App State and James Madison. Okay, but Georgia Southern spanked you on the week of October 26th. That's not good. And on rivalry week, you lose a tight one to Old Dominion. What is going on with Georgia State? I mean, they start off great, but then they end on a bad note. I just hope it's not that way for the ball game. But as for Blake Anderson and the Utah State Aggies, they do they do not bad. I mean, they weren't so bad, but they did beat some pitiful teams this year. I mean, Nevada was pitiful. New Mexico, they're pitiful as usual. San Diego State's falling apart. Colorado State couldn't make it to a bowl game. Idaho State, they had a losing record. And Connecticut, well, they're
Well,
Connecticut.
Jackson,
So they can't get a single win against a winning record team.
now, now Jackson, I do want to say, good buddy, we do got to give them credit for keeping it close with Iowa, Utah State. That is, they did keep it close with
Oh
Iowa.
yeah.
Now we could say that Iowa's offense was pee poor, but still they did keep it close against the team who made it to the Big Ten championship game. I think they deserve just a wee bit of credit for that. Just a wee bit. Go ahead though, good buddy.
Yeah, but everybody's gonna bring their A game on week one. We're not gonna know all that much about everybody in week one. But Utah State, they seem to just let go to their heads.
I just want to know, Jackson, Utah State and Georgia State. I mean, Blake Anderson, like you said, has done a good job. They're in a bowl game. The fact that Georgia State's only a 2 point favorite it's basically another pickle. But in my opinion, this is a toss up. So I feel like this game could go either way for both teams. I feel like Georgia State's had the more impressive season and more impressive wins. Their defense, it's okay. Their offense comes and goes. Utah State, like you said, has had their peaks and valleys, but I think I trust Georgia State just a little bit more in this game. I'm going Georgia State 31-13. I think they win in big fashion. What about you, good buddy? Who do you got?
I gotta go with Utah State. I mean, that collapse by Georgia State makes me feel zero confidence in them.
True, true. I mean, true. Those are very interesting points. Now on to South Alabama, Eastern Michigan in the 69.
68 Ventures Bowl.
Yes, Citrus Bowl. Oh my gosh. South Alabama, 15.5 point favorites. That's the biggest spread we've had up to this point. Do they not think very highly of Eastern Michigan? My goodness. Jackson,
Well,
give me your gut feeling of this game and talk about that big spread, good buddy, because that is
oh
definitely
yeah.
a talking point.
I guess everybody's forgetting about Eastern Michigan. They seem to get really high when a lot of people are doubting them, but I don't think that's going to be the case because they're going up against South Alabama. I will say Kane Womack's done a tremendous job at South Alabama, but Chris Creighton has done such a great job over at Eastern Michigan. He has turned around that program. But I will say though, I'm kind of curious to see how they do against South Alabama. Right now, I'm thinking that's going to be a 31-14 game for South Alabama.
Giving your prediction already. Okay. Um yeah, this is very interesting. I mean, 15 and a half, that's 15 and a half points. That's very telling. That means Vegas has no confidence in Eastern Michigan, but that could also be to their greater advantage too. I mean, because let's be honest, Jackson, when you doubt a team that big, they tend to surprise you. But I think, like you said, Kane Womack, South Alabama, they've had a great year. They've done really well. I'm going with you, South Alabama. I think it's closer than the experts think. I'm going South Alabama 22 to 19. A walk-off field goal wins it. And now on to the Las Vegas Bowl. You got Utah against Northwestern. Utah is a 6.5 point favorite. And let's be completely honest here. Me and Jackson, we doubted Northwestern big time. We did not even expect them to make a bowl game, but here they are. Ben
Oh, we all
Bryant,
did.
David Braun. What an incredible job that they had. Utah, what an incredible job Kyle Whittingham has done, especially against that schedule, too. I remember, Jackson, we had that conversation over the phone one night about that. That if Utah made it out of there 9-3, they would be very lucky. Well, they made it out 8-4. Not the worst result, but Cam Rising not being healthy was definitely a big factor. And as we know, Bryson Barnes has entered the transfer portal. Tui Velote, I can't say his last name. He's going to the draft. Tui Velita, I think how you say it. So this is going to be a very interesting game. But Jackson, give me your take on this game and just talk about the similar paths both these teams took because they were counted out multiple times, especially Northwestern.
Oh man, like Northwestern, I didn't take them seriously until they were getting closer to bowl eligibility, honestly. When I looked at that Minnesota game from week 4, I was just like, ugh, Minnesota looked poor against Northwestern. But then I look at this team each and every week. You know, that win against Maryland made me take them a little bit seriously. I took them more seriously. And especially after they kept it close with Iowa, that double digit win over Wisconsin, you know, at the jump around made me really notice them. I'm like, okay, Northwestern, I'm now listening to you. I am definitely listening to you, which that's what they did. But we know Utah's got a tenacious defense and it's kept them in a lot of games this season. But
Yeah,
that
it's yeah. Now I will say, Jackson, if you're looking at this from a Northwestern perspective, are you looking at this saying we're playing with house money because we're technically not even supposed to be here? Or are you taking the approach of let's go prove some more people wrong because people think we're fraudulent, we got lucky and maybe won some games we shouldn't? And if you're Utah, how do you approach this game knowing that you are obviously, I think, the better team when healthy, but you're playing a dangerous team with a lot of confidence right now? How do you approach this game if you're both teams, Jackson?
Well, I gotta say, I think Northwestern's happy to be there, especially in Vegas. But, you know, as they say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I mean,
I
Utah, they got some, they're going to be having a great year in their first year of the Big 12 next year. It's definitely going to be better than this year. Northwestern, they made a great move by naming David Braun as their next head coach. So, and Ben Bryant's had a pretty good performance this season. He's done a tremendous job. But Utah, I hope their quarterback situation gets figured out soon because they're going to need a lot of luck. But I think they can get it done against Northwestern. But I don't
I
think they'll beat
mean,
the spread.
I think before you give your pick, Jackson, I do want to ask you one more thing. If Cam Rising was healthy, would Utah have gone 8-4 still, even with the way their schedule lined up? Or do you think they would be in a New Year's Six bowl?
I think they would be in a New Year's Six bowl, and I think people would have had a little more respect for their non-conference schedule. By having Florida and Baylor in there. I mean, I know Florida and Baylor had losing records this year, but still, though, Power Five's Power Five.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'll let you go on and pick yours first on this one, Jackson. Who do you got winning in Vegas, baby?
Oh, I got Utah winning a tight one, 24-21.
I think we don't know who the quarterback is for Utah this game because Bryson Barnes and Nate Johnson both entered the transfer portal. Utah's got a lot of guys going to the draft, a lot of uncertainty, but I think their tenacious defense and the way Kyle Whittingham coaches, I think the Utes get it done, low scoring, 17-14, and leave Vegas with the win. Now, on to our final bowl for at least now. We'll be back with more later. The final bowl on Saturday, December 23rd. You've got Coastal Carolina, San Jose State, and the Hawaiian Bowl. And San Jose State is a 9.5 point favorite. Oh my. And a lot of
Yep.
that could be Grayson McCall did enter the transfer portal. But Jackson, just talk about the season that both these teams have had and how the impact of Grayson McCall not being there could affect Coastal Carolina.
Oh, that's gonna hurt Coastal Carolina. I mean, his production dropped under Coach Tim Beck this year. And, Jamie Chadwell was still at Coastal Carolina. I don't think McCall's production would have dropped down. I think it would have been the same, but it wouldn't have dropped down by 700 passing yards for the season. And as for San Jose State, I got a good look at them against USC with Shelvin Shadero. He was tremendous against USC, and he did pretty good against Oregon State. And I will say, this guy has had 22,558 passing yards for the season, 19 touchdown passes, and 4 interceptions. I mean, he does not throw many picks. I like that. And right now, I'm going to go with the San Jose Spartacus Spartans in a 35-17 victory.
Yeah, I think losing Grayson McCall is going to be big time in this game. I think the defense for San Jose State, they give up a lot of yards and points, but without Grayson McCall, Coastal Carolina's offense does seem to not be as good. I'm going to go San Jose State 38-24, and they get a victory. But that was our bowl predictions for Saturday, December 16th to Saturday, December 23rd. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, click on notifications down below. And when you all see this, these episodes will have already occurred. But Jackson, let the people know what you got going on at the Jacksonian.
Well, I got episode 20 of the Jacksonian releasing on X, then on YouTube tomorrow night, as I will be having on Zach Seco, the host of Locked On Nitty Lions, to discuss the preview of the 2023 Peach Bowl against Ole Miss. Then we will be talking a little bit about the 2023 season, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the reaction when Penn State hired Andy Kotelnicki from Kansas, and we're going to go over as to whether what's happening with Manny Diaz. Is he leaving for a coaching position? head coaching position at Duke, or is he staying at Penn State? That's going to be something we find out together. And also, Friday night, I will be releasing episode 21 of the Jacksonian with Richie Barnes, the co-host of Double Fries No Slaw, where we will be going over the reaction of when Florida State got left out in the final playoff rankings of the 2023 season. We go over what happened with Jordan Travis. We go over as to whether Florida State can have a similar performance to where Alabama beat Nebraska in the 67 Sugar Bowl and TCU beating Ole Miss in the 2014 Peach Bowl, amongst other topics. And it's going to be all right here, released on X, then on YouTube. Stick around.
So Jackson, for people that, because they're going to see this next Monday night, what are the dates for those that have want to watch it?
These episodes will be released Wednesday night. Should be around 7:30, but they should be released before then. And the Richie Barnes episode should be released at 7:30 or before 7:30. That you can count on. You're going to see some great episodes, and they're going to be fun. It's going to be wild. You may see some happiness, you may see some tears, you may see some anger, but you'll see it all right here. Stay tuned.
Yes, and for those who want to tune in, that they will be live, pre-recorded Wednesday and Friday nights on your calendars. That would be December 6th and I believe December 8th for those who want to keep track of dates, because this will be released on next Monday, when bowl season kicks in. So looking forward to it. And Jackson, let the people know where they can find you on YouTube and your Twitter handle. And that way, if they want to follow and chit chat about Bama and Michigan.
Well, they can find me on youtube.com at Jackson Johnson 979. I'm 245 subs away from getting to 500. I can't do it without your help, and I can definitely use a little something for that holiday cheer for sure. And you can find me on twitter.com at Jackson909960335. You can also find me on Instagram and Threads on at Jackson Johnson 543908, where I will be releasing my predictions on the college football season, NFL season, other sports, other takes. I just kind of run my mouth on there, of course. But I also give channel updates on my Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. So watch for those, and it's going to be a blast. And you're also going to see Jacksonian episode updates as well, and you'll see some sweet promos as well. So stay tuned for that. Like, comment, subscribe on notifications. And Austin, what have you got going on for the good people?
So I just released a couple videos of my predictions for the Heisman. I talked about, did Florida State get left out on release a video of that. I'll release some more videos in the future, especially this one. And me and Jackson, we will be back. We will be back after Saturday, December 23rd, to predict the rest of the bowl games. We will also be doing the NY6s together. And of course, we will break down the playoffs and the national championships. And we will recap them all as well for your viewing pleasure. So if Alabama loses and Jackson has a meltdown, you'll know why. But it'll make for great content. Or if I'm having a meltdown on here, you know that we lost to USC in our bowl game. But all joking aside, got plenty of those coming out, plenty of videos coming out as well in the future. Looking forward to bringing y'all more great content. We're working hard over here on both sides, and we look forward to what's to come in the future. Y'all stay safe, and remember, one move at a time. Go Cards.
Roll Tide.